Hello and welcome to this edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com. I'm Jessica Marksbury, joined today in our New York City studio by Golf Magazine's Jeff Ritter and Cameron Morfitt via Skype. Rory McIlroy has missed 2 European Tour cuts in a row, this latest one after shooting an 80 in the first round of the Irish Open. Cameron, should we be concerned?
I'm not too worried about Rory. I think this is a case where his foundation is actually hosting the event, the Irish Open, and there's a lot of distractions when you have a week like that. And he's got his eye on a lot of different balls, and it's also a pretty quirky course with some blind shots and whatnot. And in addition, the first cut he missed that you mentioned at the BMW PGA Championship over there in Europe. That course to Rory is a little bit like what TPC Sawgrass is to Tiger, a little bit of a vexing place where he has nevertheless won on occasion. But I'm not too worried about it. I think he'll get it together and figure out Chambers Bay. And I think it's a good course for him. Requires some real length off the tee and some creativity around the greens. And, should be right up his alley.
I think you make a great point, Cam, in the sense that, Rory has so many other off-course distractions now as the world #1 player. And that's a position where we saw Tiger just excel for so many years. It makes it all the more impressive that Tiger did what he did, dealing with what he was dealing with. What do you think what your expectations are for Rory going forward?
It's not that I'm worried about Rory necessarily, but I don't have him as the favorite at Chambers Bay. Maybe that's, I don't know if is that bold or not to have the #1 player in the world, maybe not as my first choice. I think Jordan Spieth's the favorite at Chambers Bay. I don't think distance is going to be the deciding factor, distance off the tee. And Spieth has a caddy who's more familiar with that place than anybody else in the caddy yard. So I don't know. Like Cam said, the Irish Open, that's a quirky course, but so is Chambers Bay. And so I think the course makes that event a wild card. And I would put Spieth ahead of Rory heading in, not necessarily because of what happened to Rory at the Irish Open. I just think this might be a Spieth kind of course. We'll see.
Cam, Rory seems to do really well when he's got some momentum going into a major championship. Having a few days off, maybe more than a few days off heading into the U.S. Open, is that a good or a bad thing for Rory?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, he's played five in a row now, and I think that's enough. I think he needs a little bit of a break. He can kind of regroup. Everybody's going to have a lot of learning to do with Chambers Bay. I think it's a really important thing to get there fresh, to not be even just a little bit tired mentally or physically. You really got to be ready to go there. So I think it's a good call for him to take a little bit of time off and really get his head on straight for Chambers.
It'll give him a chance to get some extra practice rounds under his belt, as Mike Davis has advised all participants in the Open to do.
They had that back and forth, and Rory McIlroy responded and said, of course, what's Mike Davis's handicap? So I would expect some of Rory's downtime to be spent out at Chambers Bay getting ready for that. Absolutely.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to the lead up to the U.S. Open. Cameron and Jeff, thanks so much for your time and insight, and thank you for joining us here on Tour Confidential on Golf.com. We'll see you right back here next week.